Lesson 5, Project Governance. Project governance is the management framework within which all project decisions are made, and it's an important component of project management. Governance defines the level of decisions, the authority, who authorizes, who has control, and what type of decisions are made within project. All of that also helps understanding of the roles and responsibilities and the levels of accountability within the project. The project governance basically defines these different elements, defines the decisions, what decisions need to be made, who makes the decisions, the authority, the different levels of authority that are given to the different people who are in charge of the project. It also makes sure there is a follow-up on the different compliance, either internal to the organization or even the compliance with certain donor regulation. It also makes sure that there are the follow-up on the specific quality standards that the project must follow. And that also includes the policies and procedures that apply to the specific project. Also make sure that all the legislation, whether it's going to be international or local laws, are also followed. And it's an element to make sure that also all the ethics are part of the project and ensures that there is a good understanding of accountability in terms of the governance. The Project Steering Committee is one of those first components of a good governance. It's usually made out of senior management in the organization. In some cases, you might have also the donor being part of the steering committee. It depends on the donor again. And there are also key stakeholders, could be internal stakeholders, people from the organization, or external stakeholders that are from other organizations or even partners who are part of the project. And then we also have the participation of the project manager in those steering committee meetings, and he's going to want to be the one who then conveys the information and the decisions from the steering committee back to the project team. Most of this structure of the project steering committee is defined at the early stages of the project. So one of those key responsibilities of the steering committee, for example, is the appointment of the project manager. Once the organization has received information from the donor about the approval of the project and the availability of the funds, then the steering committee is in charge of selecting and appointing a project manager, and also the development and approval of a project charter, which is the document that gives authorization and defines that governance structure. The steering committees also has some levels of authorization in the use of resources, the authorization of changes that could happen during the implementation of the project in terms of the schedule, the scope, or the budget. And it also the responsible for the resolution of any conflicts. Could be internal conflicts within the organization in terms of the use of resources, or even conflicts with external parties or other organizations that may have been impacting the project. The type of governance structure for a small project, it needs to be simple. It could be made of steering committee, and that could be between 3 or 5 people. Again, depends on the resources and the people available to have that role within the project, and the project manager. In that governance structure, the idea is that the project manager has certain levels of authority, but the steering committee is in charge of providing support, especially in those areas where the project manager might not have enough authority, and he depends on the steering committee to make certain decisions. Also, the steering committee is not a management unit, and sometimes there is a risk that it starts to micromanage the project, and then the role of the project manager becomes confused. As its name says, it helps steer the project. It still makes sure that the project is following the plans, it makes sure that the project is delivering the results that is intended, and that there are any changes or modifications, then the committee is making sure that the project also has all the resources and the attention and the priority it needs in order to be successful. For a large project or complex project, you might have different layers in your governance. You may even have what is called a project board, and that could be high-level executives in the organization that are providing that support, and the board may even include people from other skills or other expertise who are providing that level of support. You might have then an additional steering committee who's more into the regular decisions that are made on the project, like status reports, that changes and approvals. An advisory committee is another element that can be part of the governance for a large project. And they can happen at different levels. You can have one level, like here, which is providing advisory to the project manager, but you can even have levels here and here where the advisory committee could be more on a strategic level, providing support to the different governance levels of this structure. Again, the project manager participates, in most of these meetings in order to make sure that he's getting the information and conveying those decisions to the team and to the people who need to do the work.